I treated her like family, paid her salary on time, even gave her extra money now and then, just to encourage her good work. But one morning, I noticed something strange. My savings box had been forced open. At first, I thought maybe I misplaced the cash. I wanted to believe it was my mistake, until I realized my gold jewelry, my watches, and my bangles were all gone. And the maid vanished. When I finally reached her on the phone, she denied everything, without shame, without fear, like she had rehearsed it 1,000 times. That day, I learned something bitter. Kindness doesn't always breed loyalty. Some hearts repay generosity with betrayal. The day I met her, I never imagined it would end like that. Her name was Lila. She looked so young, barely in her 20s, with innocent eyes that could melt anyone's heart. When she came for the interview, she spoke softly, almost too softly, like she was afraid to take up space in the room. "Madam, I just want to work," she said. "I can cook, wash, clean, anything you want." She looked so humble, so desperate, that something inside me softened. I didn't even bother checking her references. I simply said, "All right. You can start tomorrow." She smiled, showing small, white teeth. "Thank you, madam. God bless you." And just like that, Lila became part of my home. For the first few weeks, she was perfect, too perfect. She woke up before sunrise, cleaned every corner, and cooked meals that tasted like something straight out of a 5-star hotel. Even my husband noticed. "You finally found the right one this time," he joked. I laughed and replied, "Yes, I think she's special." I truly believed I had hired an angel. But angels can lie too. Sometimes they come wearing smiles so bright, you forget to look behind them. Hello friends and family, welcome to my channel. But before we dive deeper into today's story, I have a small but heartfelt request. Please subscribe now. Your support is what keeps this channel, and these stories, alive. Every time you click that subscribe button, you're helping us share voices that might never be heard, and stories that deserve to be remembered. In the comments, tell us where you're watching from. We love hearing from every corner of the world. Because together, we're not just telling stories. We're keeping hope alive. Now, back to the story. At first, Lila was everything a madam could ask for. She worked quietly, smiled often, and always said thank you, even when I hadn't given her anything. When I traveled, she sent voice notes praying for my safe return. When I came home exhausted, she would warm my food and ask gently, "Madam, should I press your clothes for tomorrow?" I started to trust her, not just as a worker, but as a person. Some nights, I sat with her in the kitchen while she cooked, talking about life. She told me about her sick mother in the village and her siblings who had dropped out of school. Once she cried, real tears, and I remember reaching across the table to hold her hand. "Don't worry," I said softly. "I'll help you." The next day, I sent 50,000 naira to her account. She fell on her knees, eyes wide with gratitude. "God will bless you, madam. You're the best person I've ever worked for." I smiled. I felt proud of my kindness. It's strange how good people feel when they're being kind, until that same kindness turns into a weapon used against them. Days passed, and my faith in her deepened. She became like my little sister. I gave her some of my old handbags and shoes. Sometimes, when she dressed up to go to the market, she looked more like a lady than a maid. I didn't mind. I was happy she felt confident. But slowly, quietly, things started to change. It began with my favorite perfume, suddenly half empty, though I hadn't touched it. Then a missing lipstick. Then a towel gone from the bathroom. I didn't accuse her. I told myself maybe I misplaced them. Maybe I was just being forgetful. After all, she had never given me a reason to doubt her. Until that evening. I came home earlier than usual. The house was silent, too silent. As I stepped into the living room, I saw Lila sitting on the couch, her phone pressed to her ear. She didn't notice me at first. She was laughing softly and said, "Yes, I told her the money isn't much. She won't notice." My heart stopped. When she finally saw me, she jumped up and quickly tucked her phone into her dress pocket. Her face drained of color. "Madam, you're back early," she said, forcing a shaky smile. "Who were you talking to?" I asked. "Nobody," she replied too fast. "It was my cousin from the village." Her voice trembled. That was the first time I saw it, the crack behind her mask. That night, I lay awake replaying her words over and over. "She won't notice. What wouldn't I notice? The next morning, I decided to find out. I opened my wardrobe and checked my small wooden savings box, the one I used for emergencies. The lock had a tiny scratch, one I had never seen before. My fingers went cold. I counted the money. 450,000 naira was gone. My chest tightened. My vision blurred for a second. I called Lila immediately. Did anyone enter my room yesterday? She looked me straight in the eye, calm, steady, almost defiant. No, madam. Only me. But I didn't touch anything. Her calmness frightened me more than anger ever could. I wanted to believe her. But deep down, something in my gut whispered, she's lying. That night, I made a plan. The next morning, I placed 50,000 naira in an envelope and hid it deep inside my drawer, beneath a pile of clothes. Then I told Lila I was traveling for 2 days. I left the house smiling. But what I didn't tell her was that a hidden camera was watching every corner of that room. I left home that morning pretending everything was normal. Lila, I said, handing her a small list. These are the things to buy at the market. I'll be gone for a few days. My cousin is getting married in Abuja. She smiled, excited as always. Okay, madam. Safe journey. Should I cook before you go? No need, I replied, forcing a smile. Just make sure the house stays neat. She nodded obediently, and I walked out the door. But what she didn't know was that every step I took was part of a test. The moment my car left the compound, I parked at the corner of the street and opened my phone. I connected to the hidden camera I had installed the night before, a tiny one, barely noticeable, tucked neatly between 2 books on my wardrobe shelf. Then I waited. For the first hour, everything seemed ordinary. She swept, washed dishes, and sang softly to herself, a hymn about grace and forgiveness. But around noon, she paused. She turned her head toward my bedroom, stood still, listening. Then she walked in. My heart started pounding. She looked around, careful and slow, like a thief who already knew where to search. She opened my wardrobe. She wasn't cleaning. She was hunting. Her fingers brushed over my dresses, then slid to the drawer. She opened it, hesitated for a second, and then smiled faintly. I watched as she reached deep inside, pulled out the envelope, and quickly tucked it into her bra. My throat went dry. Even though I had prepared myself, it still felt like someone had stabbed me. It wasn't just about the 50,000 naira, it was about trust. About kindness that's being mocked. I had treated her like my own. And this was how she repaid me. A few minutes later, she walked out humming again, that same gospel tune. I sat in my car, shaking. Tears rolled down my cheeks, not because of the money, but because I realized something darker. I had been loving a snake and calling it a daughter. That evening, I returned home quietly, pretending nothing had happened. She came to greet me at the door, cheerful as ever. Welcome, madam. Hope your journey was fine. I forced a smile. It was fine, thank you. How was the house? Everything is clean, madam, she said, grinning. I looked into her eyes and saw nothing but calm confidence. The kind of confidence that only lives in people who think they've outsmartly gotten away with their crime. Good, I said softly. You did well. She smiled and walked away, humming that same song again. But as I watched her disappear down the corridor, I whispered under my breath. Tomorrow, Lila, tomorrow, you'll meet the real me. That night, I copied the video footage onto my laptop, ready for the confrontation. My heart was steady. My evidence, solid. Tomorrow would bring her truth into the light. But when I woke up, when I opened my eyes that morning, something felt off. The house was too quiet. Usually, by 6 a.m., Lila would already be sweeping, or singing one of her slow gospel songs. But that morning, silence filled the air like fog. Lila. I called. No response. I stepped out of my room. The corridor smelled faintly of soap and air freshener, but the air felt empty, just hollow. I knocked on her door. Lila. Still nothing. I pushed the door open slowly. Then I saw it. She was gone. And so was everything else I hadn't even realized was missing. The bed was neatly made. Her few clothes were gone. The small nylon bag she always kept in the corner, gone. That's when my heart dropped. She had run away. I rushed to my wardrobe. The jewelry box, empty. The drawer, half open. My husband's gold wristwatch gone. I fell to my knees, shaking. All the kindness, all the trust, all the late-night conversations about her mother and her 6 siblings. All of it was a lie. I ran to the kitchen and checked the back door. The lock had been forced open with a spoon. She didn't just leave. She planned it all through. I sat on the floor and screamed. My other housekeeper from the guest building, Agnes, ran in. "Madam, what happened?" "She took everything," I cried. "The maid. Lila. She took it all." Agnes's eyes widened. "Madam, that girl? But she looked so gentle." I laughed bitterly through the tears. "Gentle, you said? Gentle thieves are the most dangerous." My chest tightened again, anger, humiliation, disbelief, all crashing inside me like waves. How could I be so stupid? That afternoon, I went straight to the nearest police station. The officer behind the desk listened half-heartedly as I explained what happened. But when I showed him the camera footage, his eyes widened. "Madam, this is not a small case. Do you have her details?" That was the problem. I didn't have any. No ID card. No guarantor. No address. Just her first name, her sweet smile, and my own foolish trust. The officer sighed. "We will try our best. But next time, madam, do not employ anyone without checking their background." I nodded numbly. That night, I sat in my room surrounded by emptiness. Every shadow looked like her. Every sound, a reminder of her. I replayed the video again and again, trying to understand why she had smiled as she stole the money. But then, what kind of thief does that? 2 days later, my phone rang. An unknown number. When I picked up, a soft voice whispered, "Madam, it's me, Lila." My blood froze. "Lila." I said slowly, "Where are you?" "Madam, please don't be angry," she said quickly. "I didn't steal from you. I only took what I deserve." "What you deserve?" I shouted. "You took my gold, my money, my husband's wristwatch." She laughed quietly, a sound colder than silence. "Madam, you have so much. You won't even miss it. You think you were helping me, but you were helping yourself, to feel good." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Where are you?" I demanded. "Tell me now or I'll..." The line went dead. I sat there trembling, the phone still pressed against my ear. Her last words echoed in my mind. "You think you were helping me, but you were helping yourself." That night, sleep refused to come. I lay in darkness, eyes wide open, my mind replaying every smile, every prayer, every thank you she had ever said. Before dawn, my phone buzzed again. A message. From unknown number. I opened it. It was a picture, my missing gold bangles glimmering in someone's hand. And beneath it, lies the 4 words that made my blood run cold. "You taught me well." I stared at those 4 words until my hands began to shake. "You taught me well." It felt like a knife twisting deeper with every second. I wanted to throw my phone at the wall, to break it, to erase her voice from my life, but something stopped me. The thought that maybe, just maybe, she was still nearby. I rushed to the balcony and looked down at the empty compound. The security lights flickered weakly. The night guard was snoring in his chair. There was no movement at all. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone was watching me. By morning, I hadn't slept a single hour. My eyes were red. My head throbbed. My husband, Richard, noticed the moment he walked in, adjusting his tie. "What happened to you?" he asked. I hesitated. "It's Lila. She sent me a message." He froze mid-motion. "What do you mean?" I handed him my phone. He read the message slowly, his jaw tightening. "This girl is dangerous," he said. "We're going to the police again." But when we arrived, the officer barely looked up from his table. "Sir, madam, we don't have much to do if we cannot locate her. That message might have come from anywhere. Just anywhere. So you're saying we just wait?" I snapped. "She's taunting us." He shrugged lazily. "Sometimes these housemaids join gangs." If she really sent you that message, then she will show up soon. I wanted to scream. That afternoon, I sat by the window, scrolling through my phone, searching, hoping, hating. But then I saw it. A new Instagram account had tagged me in a post. The username at real_Lila_truth. My heart skipped a beat. I clicked the page, and there she was. A photo of her wearing one of my dresses. Smiling. Posing in front of a mirror. With caption that reads, "She thought I was a servant. I was only studying her." The post got thousands of likes. With hundreds of comments. Like, "Wow girl. Expose them all. Rich people deserve it." I felt sick. She was turning my pain into her performance. Then came the next post, a close-up of Richard's gold wristwatch, along with a caption that reads, "Men like him think money hides their sins." I dropped the phone as if it burned my hands. "Richard." I screamed. "She is posting about you." He rushed over, snatched the phone, and went silent. "Delete this nonsense," he shouted. But it was too late. The story had already spread. Housemaid exposes her rich bosses. People flooded the comments with hate speech. They called me fake, cruel, a heartless madam who mistreated her house help. But I knew the truth. I had never hurt her. I had only tried to help. Or, had I? Her words echoed again in my mind. "You think you were helping me, but you were helping yourself." That night, I couldn't hold back the tears. Richard poured himself a drink and spoke quietly. "Maybe we should leave this alone. She wants attention. Let her burn out." But something inside me refused to die down. I couldn't let her destroy everything I'd built. No, it won't happen. If she wants war, she would get one. Then I opened my laptop, typed her name into the search bar, and then I saw it, a small detail in one of her latest videos. A location tag. She was still in the city. My heart pounded as I grabbed my car keys. "Where are you going?" Richard shouted, stepping in front of the door. I looked him straight in the eye and said, "To find my thief." Then I slammed the door behind me. The city looked different that night. Maybe it was me. Maybe it was the anger. Every streetlight felt like an eye. Every passing car made my heart jump. I followed the location tag from her video, a small neighborhood near the edge of town. Not a slum, not fancy, just quiet in a way that put your skin on edge. I parked, sat for a breath, then forced myself out of the car. Part of me wanted to turn back. Another part, the part that had been whispering since she ran away, hissed, "You've come too far to stop now." I showed her picture to a fruit seller. The woman squinted, then pointed. "Blue gate. Room for back." The gate was half open. Inside, the compound smelled of soap and smoke. Girls laughed behind curtains. Music hummed low. Through a half-drawn curtain I saw her, Lila, sitting on the floor, eating noodles, wearing one of my old nightgowns. Relaxed. Free. For a second, I couldn't move. My phone buzzed in my pocket and she looked up, startled. "Madam." Her face drained. "You didn't expect to see me, right?" I stepped forward, voice low. She stammered, I can explain." "Explain." I snapped. "Explain why you stole from me. Why you turned my life into entertainment." Her tears came fast. "It's not lies. You people think you can treat us like we're nothing." I blinked. "I gave you everything. I treated you like family. You treated me like a servant." She spat back. "You smiled when guests came, but you scolded me for small things. You made me feel invisible." The words landed harder than I'd expected. Guilt prickled at the edges of my anger, but I pushed it down. "So your answer was to steal?" She wiped her face, hands trembling. "I didn't steal the jewelry," she whispered. "Only the cash. I swear." My chest dropped. She had taken the money. "Where's the rest?" I asked. She looked away. "I gave it to my brother. He needed surgery. He would have died." Silence fell, thick and sudden. The street sounds dimmed. Her confession hung between us, raw and fragile. "You're lying," I said finally. You're making excuses. Madam, go to the general hospital. Ask for Kwame. Ward 3B. That's my brother. He almost died that night. I wanted to lash out, to say something to make her shrink the way she'd made me shrink with betrayal, but the words wouldn't come. I turned and walked away. She didn't follow. She simply sat there and cried, small sobs swallowed by the music and the simmering noodles. That night, sleep would not come. The name Kwame kept repeating in my head like a summons. By morning, I had made up my mind. I would go to the hospital. If she was lying, she would regret ever meeting me. But if she was telling the truth, everything I believed about Lila, and about myself, was about to change. The hospital smelled like bleach and sadness. The kind of place where time moved slowly, where hope limped on crutches, and prayers sounded tired. I stood at the reception desk, my sunglasses hiding the storm in my eyes. "Good morning, Ma," the nurse greeted politely. "I'm looking for a patient," I replied, trying to steady my voice. "His name is Kwame. Ward 3B. She flipped through a register, then nodded. "Yes, he's here. But visiting hours start in 30 minutes. I sighed and found a seat by the window. Every sound, the beeping of machines, the shuffle of nurses' shoes, pressed against my chest like invisible hands. What if Lila had been telling the truth? What if I had misjudged her all along? Then again, thieves lie. That's what they do. When I finally entered Ward 3B, I froze at the doorway. A young man lay on the bed, thin, fragile, with an oxygen tube tracing the curve of his face. He looked like someone who hadn't smiled in months. Beside him sat a woman, adjusting the drip with tired patience. And then, I saw it. A gold bracelet on his wrist. My bracelet. The one with the tiny engraved on it, a gift from my husband years ago. My breath caught in my throat. I walked closer, anger returning like a flame I thought I'd put out. "Excuse me," I said sharply. "Where did he get that bracelet?" The nurse looked up, startled. "Madam, please lower your voice." I pointed at the jewelry. "That belongs to me." She blinked, confused. "His sister brought it. She said it was hers, to sell for treatment." My heart thudded. So Lila had sold it. Not for greed, but for him. Before I could process the rush of emotions, I heard a soft voice behind me. "Madam." I turned. Lila stood there, holding a plastic food pack, her eyes swollen, her face pale. "I told you," she whispered, trembling. "I didn't lie." For a long, heavy moment, we just stared at each other. Two women standing on opposite sides of pain. She stepped closer, her voice breaking. "When my brother collapsed, I begged you for an advance. You said you'd think about it. But he didn't have time." I panicked. Tears welled in her eyes. "I wasn't trying to hurt you. I just wanted him to live." I swallowed hard. Flashes of her quietness, her tired eyes, the night I'd seen her crying by the sink. They all came rushing back. Maybe I had seen the signs. Maybe I'd just chosen not to. I looked again at the boy, his chest rising weakly, his life hanging by threads of sound and breath. The bracelet gleamed in the hospital light, mocking me. "You should have told me the truth," I whispered. She shook her head slowly. "People like you never listen when people like me talk." Her words cut through me, sharp, honest, merciless. Before I could respond, a doctor burst into the room. "Who's his sister?" he asked urgently. "I am," Lila said, stepping forward. The doctor sighed. "He's in cardiac distress. We need to move him now." Nurses rushed in. Machines beeped faster. I stood frozen as they wheeled him out, Lila running after them. And in that moment, I realized, this was no longer about stolen money. It was about life. And guilt. And how sometimes, even good intentions, can destroy everything. The hallway outside the emergency room felt endless. Every second stretched into a minute. Every minute into an hour. Lila was pacing, tears streaming down her face, her hands trembling so badly she dropped her phone twice. I sat on a cold plastic chair, frozen. For the first time, I didn't see her as the maid who stole from me. I saw her as a desperate sister, terrified, helpless, human. And yet, Part of me still couldn't forgive her. She had broken my trust, ruined my peace, turned my home into a battlefield of lies. Still, there I was, praying for her brother to live. After what felt like forever, the doctor emerged, peeling off his gloves. His face revealed nothing. "How is he?" Lila asked immediately, her voice cracking. The doctor sighed. "He's stable for now, but we'll need to keep him under observation for at least 3 days. The infection was severe." Lila dropped to her knees, sobbing. "Thank you, doctor. Thank you." Relief washed over me, but it was quickly swallowed by guilt. Because deep down I knew, if she hadn't stolen that money, that boy might be dead. Still, she had no right. When she finally looked at me again, her eyes were swollen, her voice barely a whisper. "Madam, I'm sorry. I know what I did was wrong. I'll pay you back. Somehow." I shook my head slowly. "It's not about the money anymore, Lila." She frowned. "Then what is it about?" I hesitated. The truth was, I didn't even know anymore. That evening, I returned home. Richard was sitting in the living room, staring blankly at the TV, the news flickering across his face. When I told him everything, the hospital, the bracelet, the brother, he didn't react the way I expected. He just sighed and said, "So the girl had a reason." "Yes," I said quietly. "But she still lied, Richard. She still stole from us." He nodded slowly, rubbing his chin. "Maybe we pushed her too far." I frowned. "What do you mean we?" He didn't answer right away. Instead, he stood, walked to the bar, and poured himself a drink. "You think you treated her well," he said finally. "But maybe she saw things you didn't notice." I narrowed my eyes. "Like what?" He turned then, his expression unreadable. "Maybe she saw how we argue. Maybe she heard things she shouldn't have." I froze. "What are you talking about?" He took a slow sip, eyes fixed on the glass in his hand. Then he said softly, almost to himself, "Didn't you ever wonder why she targeted you online, not me?" I blinked. "Because I'm the madam. I was the one in charge." He smiled faintly, a bitter, knowing smile. "Or maybe, she wanted to protect me." The words hit me like a slap. "Protect you from what?" He didn't answer. He just stared into his drink, as if something inside it could explain the silence between us. And for the first time, a new thought crept into my mind. One darker than betrayal, heavier than guilt. What if Richard and Lila were hiding something from me? That night, I couldn't sleep. Every sound in the house made me flinch. And in the darkness, one question echoed over and over. Who really betrayed who? The next morning, I woke up to silence that felt wrong. Richard was already gone. No note, no text, not even the rumble of his car pulling out. I made coffee but couldn't drink it. My hands trembled too badly. His words from the night before replayed in my head like a taunt. Maybe she wanted to protect me. Protect him from what? My instincts wouldn't rest. I did something I'd never done before. I went through his phone. It wasn't hard. I knew his password. I told myself it was just to calm my fears, to prove my husband wasn't hiding anything. But the moment I opened his WhatsApp, my stomach dropped. There it was, a chat labeled Richard, and love emojis, Lila. My vision blurred. Maybe it was another Lila, I thought, until I tapped it open. My whole body went cold. Her profile picture. Her name. Their messages. "Richard, stop posting online. You'll make things worse." "Lila, you promised you'd take care of me." "Richard, I said I'd help, not ruin my marriage." "Lila, then tell her the truth before I do." I dropped the phone. The room closed in, the air turned thin. So it wasn't pity. It wasn't only guilt. He knew. He knew all along. And that bracelet, the one on her brother's wrist, wasn't taken by chance. It was a gift. From him. Rage burned hotter than anything I'd felt. My car keys slipped from my sweaty hands twice before I finally got the engine started. I didn't pause to think. I drove. Straight to the hospital. Lila sat under a tree, clutching a small food flask. She looked up and froze when she saw me. "Madam, don't call me that," I snapped. Her lips trembled. Please, I don't want trouble. Trouble. I cut her off. You stole from me, you exposed me online, and now you've been sleeping with my husband? She flinched, shock, shame, something I couldn't name. It's not what you think, she whispered. Oh really? I shouted. Then what is it, Lila? You borrowed my money, you borrowed my jewelry, and now you borrowed my husband. People were staring, but I didn't care. Tears blurred my vision. She stood slowly, voice breaking. I didn't mean for it to happen. He helped me when I was broke. He said he'd get me a new job. I thought he cared. My heart twisted. And you believed him? She nodded weakly. He promised he'd tell you everything. But when I got pregnant, he changed. Pregnant. The word felt like a blow. She nodded again, sobbing. I lost it. The stress, everything. I covered my mouth to stop myself from screaming. I wanted to hate her. I wanted to destroy her. Instead, I felt a sharp, hollow betrayal, not only from the girl who'd stolen my things, but from the man I'd slept beside for 12 years. But then, my phone buzzed. When I read Richard's message, we need to talk. Don't do anything stupid. I almost laughed. Don't do anything stupid? He was the one who did everything stupid. He brought a stranger into our home, into our lives, into our bed. I wiped my tears and typed back only 2 words. Come home. Then I drove straight there. The house felt colder than usual. Maybe it was the silence. Maybe it was me. I sat on the sofa, waiting. My fingers wouldn't stay still, twisting together again and again. Every sound made me look toward the door. Finally, it opened. Richard stepped inside, tired, guilty, small. He stood for a while, watching me, as if searching for the right lie to start with. Then he said quietly, So you found out. I stood up. You lied to me. He sighed. It wasn't supposed to go this far. This far. I snapped. You cheated on me with the housemaid, Richard. In our house. In my home. He rubbed his forehead, pacing the floor. I didn't plan it. She was there when you weren't. You were always busy, always angry, always. Always what? I cut in. Always trying to make this family work? Always cleaning up your mess. He slammed his hand against the table. Stop acting like a saint. You treated her like trash, Ada. She came to me crying one night. My heart cracked. Even now, he defended her. So you became her savior? I said bitterly. Her lover? Her god. He looked down, ashamed. It was a mistake. I laughed, that broken kind of laugh that sounds like pain. A mistake that lasted how long? He didn't answer. Richard, I whispered. Did you love her? He looked up. His eyes were heavy, unreadable. After a long pause, he said quietly, Not the way you think. And just like that, 12 years of marriage collapsed inside me. A castle built on loyalty, shattered by deceit. Then another thought struck, darker than all the rest. What about the pregnancy? I asked slowly. Was it true? He froze. His eyes widened just slightly, enough to tell me he hadn't expected that. You know. I stepped closer. Was it yours? Silence. That silence said everything. I slapped him. Hard. The sound echoed through the room like thunder. He didn't move, didn't fight back. He just stood there, eyes glassy, whispering, You destroyed everything. I whispered back, No, Richard, you destroyed everything. He lowered his gaze. I already destroyed myself. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every corner of the house screamed with memories I wanted to burn. And just when I thought the pain couldn't dig deeper, my phone buzzed again. It wasn't Richard this time. It was Lila. He told you everything, right? Then you should also know he's hiding something worse. My blood ran cold. Meet me tomorrow. Alone. I stared at the message, my heart pounding. If what she said was true, then maybe. The betrayal had only just begun. I didn't sleep that night. Lila's message burned in my mind like a brand. He's hiding something worse. Meet me tomorrow. Alone. Something worse? What could possibly be worse than betrayal, lies, and humiliation? Part of me wanted to delete the message, block her number, pretend she didn't exist. But another part, the one still desperate for answers, refused to rest. By morning, I had made up my mind. I was going to meet her. She chose an open place, an old park at the edge of town. The kind of place where children once played before the swings broke and the grass grew wild. When I arrived, she was already there, sitting on a rusted bench, her eyes red but strangely calm. "Thanks for coming," she said quietly. "Say what you came to say," I replied coldly. She nodded, exhaling shakily. "I know you hate me. You have every right. But before you decide what to do next, you need to know who your husband really is." Folded my arms. "I already know enough." "No," she whispered, shaking her head. "You don't." She pulled out her phone, scrolled for a moment, then handed it to me. On the screen was a video. At first, it looked harmless, Richard in his office, sitting with two men I didn't recognize. But then I heard his voice. "Just move the funds quietly. She doesn't check the company accounts. I'll fix the documents later." My pulse quickened. One of the men asked, "And the maid?" Richard leaned back, smirking. "I'll handle her. She knows too much already." My heart stopped. I dropped the phone, my hands trembling. You recorded this?" She nodded, her voice trembling. "He used me, madam. He made me clean his lies, not your house. He's been laundering money through your company for months. When I found out, he tried to silence me. That's why I ran." I stared at her, shaking my head. "You expect me to believe this?" "You don't have to believe me," she said softly. "Just check your company's account. Look at the transactions, the dates. You'll see." Her voice was calm now, almost resigned, like someone who had already accepted her punishment. If she was lying, this was the boldest lie of all. But if she was telling the truth, then the man I defended for 12 years wasn't just unfaithful, he was dangerous. "Why tell me this now?" I asked, my throat dry. "Why not go to the police?" She looked away. "Because they won't listen to someone like me. But they'll listen to you. You're his wife." Her words landed heavy in my chest. Everything, the theft, the affair, the panic, it all twisted together into a darker truth. I whispered, "So you stole to save your brother, and stayed silent to save yourself." Tears welled up in her eyes. "I never wanted to hurt you. I just wanted to survive." But when he realized I still had proof. Her voice broke. "He said he'd finish what he started." As I turned to leave, she reached for my hand. "Be careful," she said softly. "He's more dangerous than you think." Her grip was cold, desperate, and for the first time, I believed her. That night, I drove home in silence. No music. No thoughts. Just the sound of my heart beating too fast. When I stepped inside, the house was dark, eerily quiet. Then, a familiar voice emerged from the shadows. "Richards. You met her, didn't you?" I froze where I stood. He was sitting in the dark, his phone glowing faintly in his hand, and on the table beside him, a gun. "You met her, didn't you?" His voice came from the corner of the room, low, controlled, but laced with something dangerous. I froze, gripping my purse so tightly my knuckles turned white. He stepped into the dim light, a glass of whiskey in one hand, sleeves rolled up, calm but somehow menacing. His eyes, though, told a different story. Something cold. Something sharp. "How long have you been standing there?" I asked quietly. "Long enough," he said. "Long enough to know you didn't go where you said you were going." I tried to keep my voice steady. "I went for a walk." He smiled faintly, almost mocking. "In a park? With her?" I stayed silent. The pause spoke louder than any words. He walked closer, deliberate, measured, each step echoing ominously. When he stopped just a few feet away, he tilted his head slightly. "What did she tell you?" "That depends," I said. "Should I believe she's lying, or believe you are?" For the first time, I saw something flicker in his eyes. Not fear of me, but fear of exposure. He laughed softly, shaking his head. She really got to you, didn't she? You think you're some kind of detective now? Stop pretending, Richard. I saw the video. That stopped him. Silence stretched for a heartbeat. Then he set the whiskey down and looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time. I never wanted you to find out this way, he said quietly. Find out what? That you've been stealing? Using my company to hide money? Or that you were sleeping with her while doing it? His calm cracked. A fist slammed into the wall. The sound reverberated through the room. I did it for us, he shouted. For our future. Do you think the world plays fair? You build a company from scratch, sweat and sacrifice, and in the end, the system takes everything. I just took back what I deserved. I trembled, voice barely above a whisper. You took my trust. That's what you took. He turned away, breathing hard. I can fix this. We can fix this. No one needs to know. I shook my head slowly. It's too late, Richard. I already know everything. He turned sharply, eyes dark as midnight. No, he said, voice dropping to a whisper. You think you do. A step closer. His gaze bore into mine. If you tell anyone, if you go to the police, I will destroy you. Everything you own. Everything you built. Do you understand? My heart pounded, but I met his eyes, voice steady despite the terror. Then you've already destroyed me. He stared long enough to let the weight of that settle. Then, as silently as he appeared, he walked away, leaving the glass shattered on the floor behind him. That night, I locked my bedroom door and for the first time in 12 years, slept with my phone under my pillow, because I finally understood the man I had married. At 2:47 a.m., my phone buzzed. A message from Lila. He knows I told you. He's coming for me. Then, silence. The message on my phone glowed like a warning in the dark. He knows I told you. He's coming for me. Lila. My heart stopped. My hands shook so badly I nearly dropped the phone. I jumped out of bed, grabbing my coat and keys. Every instinct screamed at me, go. Now. The streets were empty, the city silent except for the occasional hum of a passing car. My mind raced. Was Richard really coming for her? Or was this some twisted game he had set up to scare me? I drove through narrow alleyways, dodging the shadows, every nerve on fire. My phone buzzed again. They're outside. Don't trust anyone. A chill ran down my spine. Who was they? Richard? Or someone else involved in his schemes? I arrived at Lila's apartment building. The door was ajar. My breath caught in my throat. I pushed it open slowly, calling her name. Lila. No answer. Only the faint echo of my own voice. Then, a whisper. Down here. I followed the voice to the basement. The light flickered, casting long shadows. And there she was, Lila, crouched behind some crates, pale and terrified. Richard? I asked. She shook her head violently. No, not him. Someone else. I don't know who. They've been watching me for days. I ran, but he caught me again. Before I could respond, a figure emerged from the shadows. Tall. Silent. Dressed entirely in black. I froze. Lila screamed. I grabbed her hand and ran toward the stairwell. But the figure moved faster. Too fast. A hand reached for us. I turned and for the first time, I saw the cold, merciless face of the man following us, unknown, unrelenting. We bolted out of the basement into the empty streets, hearts pounding. Every corner we turned seemed like a trap. Every shadow felt alive. Somewhere behind us, a motorcycle roared to life. The chase had begun. I glanced back. The figure on the bike was getting closer, and then in a flash, a black van blocked the street ahead. We were trapped. The message stared back at me like a ghost on my screen. You're next. I read it once. Twice. Then again, hoping maybe I was imagining it. But it was real. No profile picture. No name. Just a number I didn't recognize. My first instinct was to call Richard. Then I stopped myself. What if it was him? What if this was his way of keeping me quiet? I turned off the phone and gripped the steering wheel so tightly my fingers hurt. Rain still tapped against the windshield, soft, almost gentle, but the world outside suddenly felt too dangerous, too dark. For the first time, I didn't feel safe in my own city. Not in my car. Not even in my own skin. I didn't go home that night. Instead, I drove straight to a hotel downtown, the kind with security guards and cameras at every entrance. The receptionist smiled politely when I checked in, but she must have noticed my shaking hands, the wet hair, the fear in my eyes. "Rough night, ma'am?" she asked softly. "You have no idea," I said. In the small hotel room, I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at my reflection in the mirror. My mascara had run down my cheeks. My hair was a mess. But what struck me most was how tired I looked, not just physically, but deep in my soul. I'd built an empire, handled deals worth millions. Yet somehow, I'd been outsmarted by the two people I trusted most. And one of them was now dead. The next morning, I made a decision. No more crying. No more fear. If Richard thought I'd hide, he was wrong. I called my private investigator Tund, a man who had once helped me trace a blackmailer years ago. He picked up on the first ring. "Madam Acua? Long time. What's wrong?" His voice was calm, professional, the kind of voice that made you feel safe. "I need you to find something for me," I said. "Fast. Name it." "A man. My husband." That caught him off guard. "Your husband?" "Yes. I think he's involved in something dark, maybe even murder. And I have proof." "Then don't say another word on this call," Tund said quickly. "Meet me at my office in 2 hours. Bring everything you have." 2 hours later, I was sitting across from him, a man in his 40s, bald with tired but sharp eyes. He listened silently as I showed him screenshots, bank statements, and Lila's final messages. When I finished, he leaned back and said, "This is deeper than you think." "How deep?" I asked. He pointed at a line of transactions on one of the papers. "See this? These aren't just hidden funds. They're part of a network, gold trades, fake exports, shell companies. Someone's moving millions offshore." My stomach twisted. "Are you saying Richard is part of that?" Tund didn't answer immediately. He just looked at me and said quietly, "I think Lila found something she wasn't supposed to. And whoever silenced her might not stop there." For a moment, the room went completely still. I stared at him. He stared back. Finally, I whispered, "Then we find them first." That evening, when I returned to the hotel, I noticed something strange. The door to my room, the one I had locked that morning, was slightly open. Inside, the light was on. And on the bed, lay a single gold bangle. My gold bangle. The one Lila had stolen. I froze at the doorway. The air inside the room was still, too still, like whoever had been there had just left. The gold bangle sat perfectly on the white bedsheet, glinting under the warm hotel light. My heart skipped a beat. It was mine. The same one I'd lost weeks ago. The one Lila must have taken before she vanished. So why was it here now? I took a cautious step inside. Nothing looked broken. No drawers open. No bags touched. Only that single piece of gold. My throat tightened as I whispered, "What are you trying to tell me, Lila?" I picked up the bangle carefully. Something about it felt heavier than usual. And then, click. It moved. There was a tiny hinge I had never noticed before. I pressed it gently, and the bangle split open like a hidden case. Inside was a small folded piece of paper. My hands trembled as I unfolded it. It wasn't a letter, it was a list. 3 names. 3 account numbers. And one word written in shaky handwriting at the bottom. Proof. My knees went weak. This was what she died for. The reason she ran. The truth that Richard and his people wanted buried. I sank onto the bed, clutching the bangle in my hand like it was her voice from the grave. Then I heard a sound, faint but clear, outside the door. A slow, steady footstep. My body froze. The lights flickered. Someone was out there. I moved quietly, grabbed my phone, and texted Tund. Someone was in my room. I found something. Come fast. Then I killed the lights and stood behind the door, holding my breath. The footsteps stopped. Silence. Then a soft knock. 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 I didn't answer. Another pause, then the doorknob turned slightly, testing the lock. That was it. I grabbed my handbag and bolted through the connecting door into the next hallway, barefoot, heart hammering. By the time I reached the hotel lobby, my hands were shaking so badly I dropped my phone. The guard rushed to help, but I gasped, Don't let anyone go up there. When Tund arrived minutes later, I showed him the bangle, the paper, and the list of names. He stared at it for a long moment, eyes wide. Then he said, Madam, this isn't just money laundering. These are high-level accounts. I know 2 of these names. One's a politician. The other. He stopped. The other what? I demanded. He looked up at me slowly. The other is your husband's business partner. Something inside me broke. All this time, I thought I was fighting Richard alone. But it wasn't just him. It was a network. A chain of powerful people, rich, connected, untouchable. And now they knew I had the evidence. Tund slipped the paper into an envelope and said, We'll need to move fast. You can't go home tonight. I nodded. Then my phone buzzed again. A new message. No name. No number. Too late. We already know where you are. Tund didn't waste a second. Get up, he said. His voice was low and steady, but his eyes gave him away, sharp with panic. Now. He grabbed the envelope, stuffed it inside his jacket, and pulled me toward the back exit. The hotel staff stared as we rushed through the dim corridor, past the kitchen, past the laundry carts. Somewhere above us, I heard running feet, too many of them. My breath came in short gasps. Tund, what's happening? How do they already? He cut me off. They were watching you. You said you used your phone, right? They traced it. We can't stay here. We burst out into the cold night air behind the hotel. The city felt different now. The streetlights flickered, shadows shifted where no one stood. I could smell the rain, the exhaust, the danger. Tund's black SUV was parked near the fence. We jumped in, and he drove off in one sharp motion, tires screeching. Where are we going? I asked, gripping the seat. Someplace quiet, he said. Someplace they won't look. For a long while, neither of us spoke. The road stretched endlessly ahead, the hum of the engine the only sound between us. I kept staring out the window, watching the city shrink behind us like a dying memory. Finally, I whispered, She died because of me, didn't she? Lila. Tund glanced at me but didn't answer right away. She died because she tried to do the right thing. I looked down at my trembling hands. She was more than just a maid, wasn't she? He sighed. I didn't want to tell you until I was sure. But yes, Lila wasn't who she said she was. She was working undercover, trying to expose the same people you're now up against. I turned sharply toward him. Undercover? For who? For the Financial Crimes Bureau, he said. They suspected your husband's company was being used to move black money overseas. She was sent to gather proof, quietly. But when she got too close, someone found out. My chest tightened. And Richard. He was one of their main conduits, Tund said grimly. He might not have killed her himself, but he definitely knew who did. The words hit me like a blow. I pressed my palms against my eyes and whispered, She risked everything. Tund's tone softened. She trusted you. That's why she left that clue in your bangle. We drove for hours until the city lights faded completely. At dawn, we reached an old guest house on the edge of a small fishing town. Salt filled the air, and the sea whispered somewhere beyond the horizon. Tund parked beside the building. We'll stay here for a bit. Change SIM cards. Send the file to someone I trust. I nodded, exhausted. The moment I sat on the bed, my body gave up. Sleep pulled me under like a wave. When I woke, it was evening again. Tund sat by the window, laptop open, his face lit by its blue glow. Any luck? I asked. He didn't answer immediately. Then he turned to me slowly and said, Someone just transferred $500,000 into your account. I blinked. What? He showed me the screen. From one of the same accounts on that paper. My stomach dropped. Why would they send me money? He closed the laptop gently and said, "It's not money. It's a message." I frowned. What message? He looked me dead in the eyes. They want you to shut up, or they'll pay you to disappear. Before I could reply, the power went out. The room plunged into darkness. Then came a knock at the door. Knock, knock, knock. And a voice. "Madam Acua, you shouldn't have run." The knock came again, louder this time. My heart slammed against my ribs as if trying to break free. "Who is it?" I called, my voice trembling. No answer. Just the echo of the knock on thin wood. Tund stood rigid behind me, his hand resting on his gun. "Don't move," he whispered. "Let me handle this." Slowly, he reached for the door handle. The lock clicked. A shadow fell across the threshold. A man stepped in, tall in a dark suit, his face half hidden in the dim light. His eyes gleamed cold. "Tund," he said, voice smooth and dangerous. "Step aside." Tund didn't move. "I don't think so." The man smiled, no warmth in it, only a predator's patience. Then he lunged, sudden and fast, faster than I could follow. Tund tried to grab him, but the man was stronger than he looked. They struggled. A shot cracked the room. I screamed. In that instant, hands grappled me, dragging me away from the chaos. I fought, kicked, cursed. It did no good. They overpowered me. A canvas bag was thrown over my head. Darkness swallowed everything. Panic, cold air, the world tilting as I was shoved into a car. When the bag was finally pulled away, I found myself in a room I didn't recognize. Stark white walls, a single high barred window. Clinical. Isolated. I was alone. Alone, except for a single envelope on the metal table in front of me. My hands shook as I opened it. Inside was a photograph, Lila smiling, but bound and bruised. Beneath it, a neat handwritten note. "You don't know everything yet. Make the wrong move, and she dies. Make the right move, and you might survive." Something about the picture felt wrong. Too clean, too posed, as if someone wanted me to stop asking questions. My stomach dropped. My mind scrambled for a plan. A voice spoke from behind me, slow, calm, terrifying. "Acua, it seems you've inherited quite the problem." I froze. The man stepped into the light. My blood ran cold. It was Richard. "And now," he said softly, "you'll see why some betrayals hurt more than death." Panic flared anew when I realized Tund wasn't there. If he'd been taken, or worse, then I was truly alone. I sank into the cold metal chair, my hands still trembling. The photograph of Lila burned into my mind, alive, but barely. Richard circled the room like a lion stalking its prey. Calm, confident, untouchable. "Do you know why I brought you here, Acua?" he asked, stopping just behind my chair. "Because you've been too curious, too clever, and some lessons must be learned the hard way." I tried to speak, but the words caught in my throat. My mind raced through every possibility, every plan, every escape route, every ally I thought I had. All gone in one breath of fear. "You're not going anywhere. And neither is she," Richard said, pointing at the photograph. "Unless you make a choice. And not the kind you like." Something about the photo tugged at me, the lighting too even, the bruises almost painted on, as if someone wanted the image to look tragic rather than true. I felt rage rise inside me. For the first time, fear didn't control me. Not when Lila's life hung in the balance. "Who are you really working for?" I demanded. "Tell me, and maybe, just maybe, I can make it worth your while." Richard chuckled, low, cold, deliberate. "Acua," he said, pacing slowly. "Always thinking she's in control. That's your problem. You never see the real power. And yet," he leaned forward slightly, "that might be your only chance." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a slim folder. Without a word, he slid it across the table toward me. My fingers hesitated before touching it. The file felt heavier than paper should. I opened it. Photos, documents, transfers, bank statements, and in the center, Tund's name. My breath caught. His face stared back at me from the first page. Every tip, every warning, every escape, it was all there. Mapped. Controlled. Bought. Tund had been working for Richard all along. The room tilted. My stomach churned. I sat back stunned, as betrayal twisted through me like a knife. Richard watched my face carefully, his smile sharp as broken glass. And now, Acua, he said softly, you'll play my game. Because the only way to save her is to trust the one who betrayed you most. I couldn't breathe. My pulse roared in my ears. Every instinct screamed, every nerve burned. Tund. The realization froze me from the inside out. He wasn't my ally. He never was. And now I was trapped, caught between two men who had played me from the start. When the guards dragged me out of that room, my mind was already racing ahead of them. If Richard was telling the truth about Tund, I was surrounded by enemies. If he was lying, I was walking straight into another one of his traps. Either way, I had to play along. They shoved me into the back seat of a black van. Through the tinted glass the sea glinted in the distance, small boats rocking gently against the waves. The air smelled of salt and diesel. I glanced at the driver. Broad shoulders. Face hidden under a cap. When he spoke, I froze. Don't panic, madam. It's me. It was Tund. He didn't turn his head or smile. He just kept driving. My heart hammered. You're working for him, I whispered. You set me up. He shook his head slightly. Not everything you saw in that file is true. Listen before you decide. Why should I? Because, he said quietly, if I hadn't pretended to be on their side, you'd already be dead. We rode in silence for nearly an hour. Finally, the road ended at an old fishing dock. He parked and turned to face me. Richard's operation isn't just local, he said. There's an offshore hub, Dubai, Singapore, Nairobi. Lila discovered the routing codes. That list in your bangle? It was only half of it. My throat went dry. And the other half? She hid it, Tund said. Somewhere only you can find it. I frowned. He nodded. Before she died, she sent an encrypted message to my server. It said, "Tell Madame Acua to look where love once began." I stared at him. What does that even mean? Where did you meet Richard for the first time? The answer hit me immediately. The old mansion. My mother's estate. Tund's jaw tightened. Then that's where the Rail file is. Before I could speak, his phone buzzed. One look at the screen drained the color from his face. They found us. I turned toward the road. 3 black SUVs were kicking up dust on the horizon. Tund jumped out, grabbed my arm. Run. There's a path behind the dock. Go. Gunfire cracked in the distance. I ran barefoot across the wet sand, wind whipping my hair, the sea roaring in my ears. Engines revved behind us, tires screamed. We reached a small shack by the water. Tund shoved me inside. I'll hold them off, he said. No, you can't. But he was already outside, firing. Through the broken slats I watched him drop 2 attackers before a bullet hit his shoulder. He stumbled, turned toward the shack, shouting something I could barely make out. Find the file, end this, trust no one. Then the door burst open, and hands seized me. As they dragged me away I caught one last image. Tund on his knees, blood soaking his shirt, still trying to raise his gun. Then everything went black. When I woke, my hands were tied. My head throbbed, my throat dry as sand. The room was dim, the air heavy with dust and wood polish. It took a few blinks for my eyes to adjust to the light filtering through cracked curtains. The place slowly came into focus. Faded rose wallpaper. A chandelier with a single flickering bulb. A grand mirror with a chipped frame. This was my mother's old mansion. The same house where I had first met Richard, 15 years ago. The same house where everything began. I pulled at the ropes until my wrists burned. Footsteps creaked in the hall. The door opened, and there he was. Richard. Calm. Impeccably dressed. A devil in expensive taste. He smiled as if nothing were wrong. Welcome home, Acua, he said softly. I see you found your way back to where it all started. I glared at him. What do you want? He sighed. The rest of the files. You have them, don't you? I don't even know what you're talking about, I managed. He crouched so his face was level with mine. You always were a terrible liar. Standing, he paced the room slowly. I built you, Acua. Every luxury, the mansion, the cars, the respect, it all came from me. But you grew teeth. Started asking questions. Forgetting your place. I didn't forget anything, I spat. I just finally saw the truth. He chuckled. The truth. Leaning closer, he added, the truth is you were useful. A name, a front, a distraction. You thought love made you special. It just made you blind. My chest tightened. And Lila? Did she die for being blind too? For the first time his expression cracked, just a little. You wouldn't understand, he said. Try me, I said. He stared at me for a long moment, then quietly, Lila wasn't supposed to die. She was supposed to disappear. She got greedy. Or maybe she got a conscience, I shot back. His eyes darkened. Be careful what you say next. Boots echoed in the hallway. A guard entered, one of the men who had dragged me earlier. Sir, he reported, we searched the dock. No sign of Tun's body. He's gone. Richard's jaw tightened. Find him. Now. The guard nodded and left. Richard turned back to me. Seems your friend's luck hasn't run out yet. Pity yours just did. He produced a small black pistol and leveled it at my head. My heart stopped. You could have walked away, Acua. But you had to dig where you shouldn't. His finger tightened on the trigger. Then bang. The window behind him exploded inward. Richard staggered, clutching his arm. Outside, an engine roared and another shot cracked through the night. I ducked behind a chair as bullets shredded the curtains. Get her out of here. Richard barked. But it was too late. The front doors burst open, and Tun stood in the doorway. Bloodied and limping, eyes blazing with fury, he stepped in holding a shotgun. Step away from her, he growled. This ends tonight. Then the mansion began to shook with gunfire. Glass shattered, wood splintered, echoes bouncing through the grand hallway like rolling thunder. Tun fired again, once, twice, each shot forcing Richard's men to dive behind pillars and furniture. He moved with a fury only desperation can summon, wounded but unstoppable. Acua, he shouted. Get down. I dove behind an overturned table as bullets whizzed past. My heart pounded so hard it felt like it might tear through my chest. Richard crouched behind the marble staircase, pressing a hand to his bleeding arm, barking orders. Take them both alive. I want her breathing. Tund reloaded quickly. That won't happen, he muttered, eyes blazing. For a moment, time slowed. I saw Richard snatch the pistol from the floor. Tund noticed too, but not fast enough. Then bang. Tund stumbled, clutching his chest. No. I screamed, rushing to him. He hit the floor hard, blood soaking his shirt. Richard rose slowly, gun in hand, breathing ragged. He smiled, cold and triumphant. I told you, Acua, you can't win against me. But Tund, gasping, whispered, Look behind you. Richard turned, too late. The grand mirror shattered. From the shadows, a figure emerged. And it was Lila, alive and still breathing. Covered in dust and bruises, her eyes hard as steel. I was done hiding, she said. You took everything from me, Richard. My name, my peace, my life, but you won't take her. Before he could react, Lila raised her gun and fired. Richard dropped to his knees, eyes wide with disbelief. Blood spread across his chest like a dark rose blooming. He tried to speak, but only a rasp escaped before he fell silent. I stared at Lila, trembling. You're still alive? She nodded, weak but fierce. Barely. They buried me alive, madam. I crawled out and disappeared. I had to wait, until he trusted everyone but me. Tears streamed down my face. Oh God, Lila. She glanced at Tund, fading fast. Help him, she whispered. I pressed my hands to his wound, shaking. Stay with me, please. Tund smiled faintly. Told you. I'd keep you safe. Then his eyes closed. The house fell silent, save for the faint hum of the broken chandelier swinging overhead. Smoke drifted through the room. Lila slid down the wall, exhaustion etched across her bruised face. "It's over," she murmured. "Finally, over." But then, even as relief flooded me, a new dread emerged. Richard's phone buzzed on the floor. A message lit up the screen. "Phase 2 initiated. Transfer complete." I stared at the words, my heart hammering. Whatever Richard had started wasn't finished yet. And the buzzing phone wouldn't stop. It vibrated against the marble floor like a heartbeat, the message glowing ominously on the cracked screen. "Phase 2 initiated. Transfer complete." I picked it up with trembling hands. The sender's name was hidden, just a string of encrypted numbers. Lila leaned closer, eyes narrowing. "That's not a normal contact. It's an internal code. Whoever sent this still works inside his network." My voice cracked. "You mean this isn't over?" She shook her head slowly. "No. Richard was just the face. The real boss. He never shows himself." The house reeked of smoke and gunpowder. Tun's blood was still warm on the tiles. My stomach churned from fear, grief, and exhaustion. Lila pulled a small black drive from her pocket and connected it to the phone. "Before they buried me, I stole something from Richard's private server," she explained. "If that text came from his people, we can trace it." Numbers began to scroll across the screen, IP addresses, transaction codes, foreign locations. Then one blinked and froze red. "Gulf Financial Holdings, Dubai." I froze. "That's where he sent all the gold and money, isn't it?" Lila nodded grimly. "Exactly. Someone just completed the final transfer. If we don't stop it, everything he stole, your money, the jewels, the fake accounts, will vanish forever." I knelt beside Tun's body, brushing his hair back gently. "He died for this," I whispered. "For the truth." Lila placed a hand on my shoulder. "Then we make it count." She helped me to my feet. "We need to leave before Richard's men regroup. Grab whatever you can." As we turned toward the hallway, a faint sound cut through the tension, the old landline near the window ringing. Slow. Deliberate. Lila froze. "Don't answer that," she whispered. But I needed to know. I picked up the receiver, my hand shaking. "Hello?" A calm male voice, foreign and smooth, spoke. "Congratulations, Madam Acua. You survived, Richard. Not many do." My blood ran cold. Who is this? "The one who made Richard rich and disposable. You should have stayed quiet." Then the line went dead. Lila stared at me. Who was it? I swallowed hard. Someone worse. She glanced toward the doorway. "Then we move now." Outside, rain fell in heavy sheets. We passed through the mansion gates, leaving behind the corpses, the smoke, and the ghosts that had haunted those walls. But as we reached the car parked by the road, a black drone hovered silently above us. Its red light blinked as it tilted, scanning our faces. Then it disappeared into the night. Lila whispered, her voice tight, "They found us again." And for the first time, I realized, Richard's death wasn't the end. It was just the beginning of the hunt.